Way before the Second World War started in Europe, with Nazi Germany's invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939, the high point of Japan's pre-World War II empire was ravaging across Manchuria and China. Japan's empire would grow even larger during World War II. By 1941, the Japanese imperial forces expanded its reach in the Asia-Pacific in a confrontation when it bombed Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Waging war with the United States became certain. In just 8 hours thereafter, the course of history for the Philippines ultimately changed. The Japanese imperial forces invaded the Philippines. For the next 4 years, Filipinos suffered grievously under the depredations of Japan's imperial ambitions. And in the Philippine island of Palawan, the peaceful way of life of Palaweños came to a sudden halt. Like a thief in the night, Palawan was occupied by Japanese forces on May 18, 1942. However, resistance to the Japanese occupation was strong. Post-war investigations revealed that 260,000 Filipinos were actively engaged in guerrilla organizations. After Governor Gaudencio Abordo of Free Palawan agreed with Major Pablo Muico's request for cooperation, the latter issued a general order assuming command of all the guerrilla units in Palawan. The Palawan Special Battalion was born, and the United States officially recognized the battalion on October 1, 1943. It was the Filipino guerrillas and its leaders who put love of country before ambition. A few among the many are cited, such as Dr. Higinio Mendoza Sr., who served as governor of Palawan and organized the first guerrilla force in Palawan on January 21, 1942. He was feared by the Japanese for his non-standard battle or jungle warfare style and ambush tactics. Captain Carlos Amores spearheaded the fight against the Japanese in Calamianes. Governor Gaudencio E. Abordo headed the organization of Free Palawan Civil Government. Major Pablo P. Muico united guerrilla units. The Bolo Battalion, using only bolos, guarded the coastline and acted as messengers and informants for military personnel and civilians. A larger number of guerrilla units operated covertly in the anti-Japanese underground. By the end of the war, it was noted that the Japanese had effective control in only 12 of the country's 48 provinces.
People of the Philippines, I have returned.
This was the singular promise that raised hopes for freedom from the Japanese imperial forces in the Philippines. On February 28, 1945, units of the 41st Infantry Division of the U.S. 8th Army landed in Canigaran and Puerto Princesa Bay with the aid of some guerrillas. The battalion was 1,000 strong, with Filipino guerrillas and the United States Army forces in the Far East. The 186th Regimental Combat Team of Brigadier General Harold H. Haney, the Assistant 41st Division Commander, was the principal combat to carry out the Palawan invasion. Right on the day of the landings, Puerto Princesa was secured. provincial officers were brought to Iwahe, where the provincial government immediately started to function. General MacArthur directed General Eichelberger's 8th Army in an order that was codenamed Victor III. Soon, more than 8,000 troops were organized as the Palawan Attack Group of Operation Victor III. Rear Admiral William M. Fetchteller commanded the amphibious assault group Task Force 78.2. After 2 days of airstrikes and a naval bombardment, the first assault wave began moving ashore at Puerto Princesa. Once more, as the Americans advanced in the Pacific, Filipino guerrilla activities were being aggressively implemented. A heavy reliance was placed on the ambushes and raids they conducted, including intelligence reportage on enemy fleets passing west of Palawan. With the aid of organized Filipino guerrillas, splintered Japanese forces were hunted down. Recapturing Palawan was a strategic point for America to regain control of the passages between southern Philippines and the West Philippine Sea. The influx of Japanese war supplies had to be severed and its remaining operations there disabled. The runway of airstrips near Puerto Princesa was an important link for Japanese supply lines in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, as the joint forces of Americans and Filipinos advanced in Palawan, it was on December 14, 1944, when about 150 POWs were ordered into shelters. 139 young soldiers were slaughtered. Known as the Palawan Massacre, they were poured with gasoline and set on fire while alive. The remains were found in 2 burned air raid shelters in the old Philippine Constabulary, presently known as Plaza Cuartel. Glenn McDowell, USMC, was one of the 11 young men who escaped Palawan Prison Camp 10A. He was the last man out. McDowell and the few survivors dug into refuse piles, hid in coral caves, and slogged through swamp and jungle to get to supportive Filipinos. On March 9, 1944, it was reported by reconnaissance troops that the enemy had evacuated in Dumaran Island. The all-weather airstrip near Puerto Princesa was rebuilt and put back into operation, as the Japanese put up little direct defense of Palawan. Flushing them out took time until late April. The Japanese resistance employed the common tactic of withdrawing into the mountains and jungles, disassembled as small units. Finally, on April 22, 1945, the liberation of Palawan was complete. The thousands of Filipino guerrillas and American soldiers who fought side by side and died to free Palawan are forever etched in the hallways of Philippine-American history. For the pain of loss and the destruction of war does dwindle over time. Only the victory of courageous comrades in battle will reverberate again and again for those who gratefully remember. And for those who have only recently come to learn of Palawan's heroes, there is newfound pride. This is the birthright of beautiful Palawan. The island ultimately blessed and enjoyed by all for its splendor today, all because of the undaunted valor of Palawan's heroes at the time of war.
Good afternoon. May we invite everyone to stand and join us for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, followed by the invocation.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of God. Heavenly Father, as we gather here today for the seventh travel talk, we thank you for the beauty of creation, for the rich history of our land, and for the stories that shape our identity. We humbly ask for your guidance as we delve into our topics during this event. May our discussions on the Palawan liberation remind us of the courage and sacrifices made for our freedom. Help us to honor the past by curating historical memorial sites to ensure that these places become not only markers of memory, but also catalysts for education and understanding. May we open our hearts and minds to learn from one another and be inspired to forge meaningful paths in the world of tourism. Grant that our ideas blend like the finest alchemy, creating experiences that enlighten, inspire, and most importantly, unite. Thank you for the opportunity to come together to share our knowledge and passion to contribute to a world where tourism becomes a source of joy, understanding, and connection. We ask for your blessing upon this event to pave the way for more discussions that will lead to meaningful actions and a lasting impact in the tourism industry. This we pray. Amen.
One, you may now take your seats.
A pleasant afternoon to everyone, and welcome to the seventh Travel Talk, the Alchemy of Effective Tourism Circuits and Curations. A salute to Valor, Palawan Liberation. Brought to you by the Tourism Knowledge Center by Raja Travel Corporation. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Governor Victorino Dennis Socrates, represented by Ms. Maribel Bunyi, and Regional Director for the Department of Tourism in Marapa, Mr. Roberto P. Alabado III, our sponsors, Princesa Garden Island Resort and Spa, and Heim Chicken. We welcome our featured topic speakers and moderator, our dearest partners, and of course, our 7 Travel Talk participants on site and virtually via Zoom. To officially start our program, may we call on Ms. Maribel C. Buni, Provincial Tourism Promotions and Development Officer, to deliver the welcome remarks and keynote message on behalf of the Governor of the Provincial Government of Palawan, the Honorable Governor Victorino Dennis M. Socrates. A warm round of applause, please.
Thank you. The Honorable Governor V. Dennis M. Socrates sends his apologies for not personally making it to this event today, but just the same sends his greetings to everyone. Allow me to read his message to you, delegates and participants to this travel talk, and I quote, "Esteemed speakers, Dr. Ricardo Jose, Ms. Eileen Clemente, Auntie Pam Trin, Moderator Professor Twinkle Rodolfo, the Raja Travel Corps team, tourism officers, delegates, and history enthusiasts, good afternoon. We gather today at the 7th Travel Talk not merely to celebrate the art of tourism, but to delve into its alchemy, the transformative process of crafting effective circuits and curations that resonate deeply with the human spirit. This time, our focus is particularly touching. A salute to the valor demonstrated during the Palawan liberation. It was actually 80 years ago. For us Palaweños, it was a story of heroism. More than 1,000 guerrillas fought during the World War II in the island of Palawan to end its occupation from the enemies. It came at a high cost, but it served as a reminder of their sacrifices. Palawan, an island paradise renowned for its breathtaking beauty, holds a history etched in both tranquility and turmoil. Its pristine beaches and lush jungles bear silent witness to a pivotal chapter in our nation's struggle for freedom. The Palawan liberation, a testament to the courage and sacrifice of countless individuals, deserves more than just a passing mention. It demands a profound understanding and respectful commemoration, as it also was a testament to the resilience of the people of Palawan who rebuilt their lives and communities after the war. Effective tourism in this context transcends the mere act of sightseeing. It becomes a pilgrimage, a journey of remembrance, and a powerful tool for education. Our task is to curate experiences that not only showcase Palawan's national or natural wonders, but also illuminate the historical significance of the liberation. This requires a delicate balance. We must avoid sensationalizing the suffering endured during the war. Instead, we should focus on honoring the resilience, bravery, and ultimate triumph of the human spirit. This means working closely with local communities and historians to ensure accurate and sensitive portrayals of the past and create spaces for quiet contemplation, allowing visitors to connect with the gravity of the events that unfolded. As we celebrate Palawan's beauty, we must also protect it for future generations. Sustainable tourism practices are paramount. Of course, this includes minimizing environmental impact, supporting local businesses, and ensuring that the economic benefits of tourism are shared equitably within the community. It is therefore important that there is a strong collaborative partnership between tourism operators and local communities. This collaboration is not merely beneficial, but rather essential for the success of any respectful and sustainable tourism initiative. Local communities possess invaluable historical knowledge, traditional practices, and cultural insights that are crucial for creating authentic and accurate representations of Palawan's past. Their involvement ensures that the stories of liberation are told truthfully and respectfully, avoiding misinterpretations or harmful stereotypes. By actively involving local communities in tourism development, we ensure that economic benefits are shared equitably. This can involve employing local guides, artisans, and entrepreneurs, creating sustainable livelihoods and fostering a sense of ownership and pride in the tourism industry. For sure, most of our frontliners and participants, if not all, have their share of stories to tell about their parents' or grandparents' participation during the World War. Local communities are often the most invested in preserving their natural environment. Their participation in planning and management in tourism guarantees that sustainable practices are implemented effectively, protecting Palawan's fragile ecosystems for future generations. Hence, our priority includes investing in local tourism or community-based tourism. Tourism can inadvertently erode cultural traditions. However, by collaborating with local communities, we can actively promote and preserve our cultural heritage, ensuring that it remains vibrant and relevant in the face of modernization. The alchemy of effective tourism lies in this careful blending of historical accuracy, emotional resonance, sustainable practices, and most critically, genuine collaboration with our local communities. By creating tourism products or circuits and curations that honor the past while safeguarding the future, through a shared vision between tourism operators and the local people, we can transform Palawan into a living testament to the power of human resilience and the enduring beauty of the island itself. Let us therefore commit ourselves to crafting tourism experiences that are not only enjoyable, but also deeply meaningful. Experiences that pay tribute to the valor of those who fought for our freedom and ensure that the lessons of the Palawan liberation are never forgotten. Thank you, matamang salamat kanindong tanan, unquote. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Buni. Please stay on stage and may we call on Ms. Eileen Clemente, Chairman and President of Raja Travel Corporation, and Ms. Maria Corazon Carzano, Supervisor of the Tourism Knowledge Center, to award the certificate and token of appreciation to our dear keynote speaker for today's 7th Travel Talk, The Alchemy of Effective Tourism Circuits and Curations.
Thank you. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Demetrio Toto Alvior, City Tourism Officer, Ms. Angie Mendoza, the Hihinio Buddy Clark Mendoza Jr. World War II Museum proponent, Ms. Maria Cristina G. Aquino, Tourism Knowledge Center proponent, Dr. Ayla Laire Gutierrez, Tourism Knowledge Center proponent, Mr. Jubel Kabatingan, LGU of Culion Tourism Office. And we'd like to acknowledge as well the academe joining us here today in Puerto Princesa, San Beda College Alabang, LPU Manila, Holy Trinity University, Palawan State University, and STI College Puerto Princesa. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and hello as well to our online friends.
Gathering here today, we are reminded by history of the hard-fought liberation of Palawan from Japanese forces in 1945. In 2015, a movement by the Palawan Liberation composed of the provincial government of Palawan, city government of Puerto Princesa, USAID, Puerto Princesa Chamber of Commerce, Palawan Tourism Council, Filipino-American Memorial Endowment, Palawan Special Battalion World War II Museum, and Raja Travel Corporation began. In just a few weeks, on April 22nd, the city will commemorate the 80th anniversary of this pivotal moment in its history. As we look forward to that significant milestone, let us look back on the highlights from when the Palawan Liberation Task Force began this important movement in 2015 to uncover the lost pieces of history during the 70th Palawan Liberation. And now, the journey to uncover our history is an ongoing one. The efforts of the Palawan Liberation Task Force since 2015 have been instrumental in bringing these stories to light, leading us to the significant 80th commemoration. We extend our sincere gratitude to the Palawan Liberation Task Force for their tireless work in uncovering and sharing these important pieces of our past. To set the stage for our discussion, let us all welcome our first speaker. He is a relatively unassuming quiet man. By looking at him, you wouldn't know that he is a winner of several awards, and one of which is the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipino in Teaching in 2019. He is a man full of wisdom and has a doctorate degree. He is a professor emeritus in the History Department of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degree in history at UP and his PhD from the Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. Specializing in military and diplomatic history, he focused on the Japanese occupation of the Philippines. He published various journals and books. His major publications are The Philippine Army 1935 to 1942 and Volume 7 of the multi-volume Kasaysayan set. He co-edited with Japanese colleagues The Philippines Under Japan, Occupation Policy and Reaction. His latest work is on the Philippine guerrilla resistance movement in Mindanao and Sulu. Today, we are honored to have one of our distinguished historians, who has also contributed to the 2015 Palawan Liberation Commemoration. He will guide us through the major events of this moment, shedding light on the national significance of Palawan during World War II. His insights will illuminate the intricate tapestry of our past, revealing how thorough research can enhance our understanding of historical events and their significance in contemporary tourism. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Ricardo T. Jose.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here. Okay, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it has been quite some time since I've been here, I think before the pandemic. But this year is a very special year because we commemorate the 80th anniversary of World War II, the end of World War II in the Philippines, and in particular here in Palawan. So I have a little time to give today. Let me try to summarize what I have. I'll talk on the liberation of Palawan, the Philippines, a turning point in the Pacific War. So what we take for granted is the fact that Palawan is very historically important during World War II. There were several events that took place here, and there are memorials, there are remains of what those events were. So what we commemorate right now, what we're commemorating right now, and in a few days, the city government and the province will be celebrating the total liberation of Palawan. What occurred 80 years ago was what was called the Victor III operation, which began on February 28, 1945. This involved the landing of U.S. Army units, particularly the 41st Infantry Division, with the assistance of the local guerrillas, the so-called Palawans Fighting 1000. Puerto, Princesa, and Iwahig were liberated very quickly on February 28, but the rest of Palawan, because Palawan is a very large island, it would take time for the other parts of this island to be liberated. So April 22 is the official end of the campaign in Palawan, because that is where the last island, Pandanan Island, was taken by the Americans, and the Japanese were removed from the island. So if we look at the map of Palawan, this is the map of Palawan. This shows the invasion in 1945 where the Americans landed, and it shows the subsequent invasions of the smaller islands afterwards. This is what it looked like on February 28, 1945. This is right here in the harbor of Palawan, Puerto Princesa. The landings looked like this that morning of February 28. And we had other ships coming in, a landing ship, tank here, landing in the area where the port is. A Japanese plane, which has been destroyed, is there in ruins. The local guerrillas helped the Americans. So these are the American landing forces, but they were aided by the guerrillas who showed them where to go, who guided them in the streets, and fighting did take place like this. And these are some of the local guerrillas. So they are commemorated in the Palawan World War II Museum. Their names and pictures are all there, but this is one very rare picture of the guerrillas at the time. So they were meeting the American forces for the first time. But if we look at the larger picture, what was the significance of Palawan in World War II? The Japanese invaded Palawan on May 18, 1942. The war had started in December 8, 1941, but the Japanese invasion actually took place only on May 18, after Bataan and Corregidor fell. But air raids had taken place before. Palawan had a very strategic position to the Japanese. It still has a strategic position to the Philippines today. It guarded the west sector of the Philippines as it still guards the west side of the Philippines today. It also linked the Philippines with the southern Philippines, the West Philippine Sea, and covered all the way up to Indochina, now Vietnam, and Borneo. So this strategic position is still the same. Palawan still retains this strategic position to the Philippines even today. The guerrilla resistance movement started very quickly and became known as the Palawan Special Battalion under Major Pablo Muyco with a civil government. It was not just a military guerrilla resistance movement, but it actually had a civil government under Governor Gaudencio Abordo. The civil government provided for the civilian population that were outside the Japanese occupied areas and even published currency. So on the left side, we see Dr. Higinio Mendoza. This is after whom Mendoza Park is named after. And this story is very tragic because he refused to collaborate with the Japanese, and the Japanese executed him because of that. On the right side, you have the guerrilla leader, and you have one of the few pictures that we have of him. This is a map of Palawan at the time, showing the different guerrilla units and the Japanese positions. So all of this actually is very well documented. If you go to the World War II Museum, you have a lot of the material there. But it's time, I think, to write again the book that was written about the Palawan Fighting Battalion was published a long time ago, and it's out of print. And I think it's now time to write an updated version. These are some of the guerrilla currency that was printed in various places like Brooks Point and other areas because the Japanese were using their own money, the Mickey Mouse money as we know it, and the guerrillas had to come out with their own. And you see how crude this was. They used pad paper, they used whatever paper they had. It shows the ingenuity of the guerrillas. So that's one thing that we highlight in this, remembering this, the ingenuity, the determination of the guerrillas to continue their life as they lived it before. And the importance of Palawan, again, strategically, especially during naval battles in the Pacific, major Japanese warships passed through the Palawan area, and the guerrillas here told MacArthur and the US Navy where the Japanese ships were. So, in particular, areas that are historically important, and now there are monuments to them. These are now tourism spots. When we land in Puerto Princesa Airport, we don't really realize that that was actually a World War II airport. It had been built by prisoner of war labor, American prisoners of war. And these prisoners of war were used to build the airfield, which the Japanese tried to use. But the Americans bombed it anyway, very quickly. And this led us to the Palawan massacre on December 14, 1944, where the American prisoners of war, these were the veterans of Bataan and Corregidor who were brought here to work on the airfield. They were placed in Plaza Cuartel, and on December 14, 1944, 150 of them were killed. Very brutally, they were burned, they were put in the air raid shelters and burned. 11 escaped, and until, well, one used to come here fairly frequently. It was a major tragedy, because if you look at what happened in Plaza Cuartel and the memorial that used to stand there, it was really very tragic, it was very sad, very painful. I actually met one of the survivors many, many years ago. He could hardly talk about it because it was so painful to remember. But it did lead to the early liberation of other prisoner of war camps in Luzon, such as Santo Tomas, Cabanatuan, and so forth. If that had not happened, the early raids in Luzon would not have taken place. So Cabanatuan, Santo Tomas, Los Baños were driven by what happened in Plaza Cuartel. So this is a picture of the Americans bombing the Japanese airfield here, so the Japanese could not use it. And this is Plaza Cuartel just after the liberation, after the massacre had taken place here. And this is what was found in Plaza Cuartel, the remains of the American soldiers who had been killed. The airfield was taken over by the Americans very quickly. It was called Westbrook Field, and it was, they used these steel Marston mats, which we see very often in many parts of the Philippines, those steel mats with holes in them. If you go to the World War II Museum, the fence is basically made of that. That was put on the runway so that it could be used right away. It could be flattened for the planes to use. And it was very important for the Americans to cover the western flank of the Philippines, covering the West Philippine Sea, which even included raids into Vietnam, the southern Philippines, and Borneo. So planes were not only American planes here, but there were also Australian planes and New Zealand planes. This was a very international airport during the war. So repairing the airfield, this is what the airfield looked like at its high point. Today, when we arrive in Puerto Princesa Airport, it looks quite different, but it's the same airfield. So that's a historical site by itself. And how it was, the map we see here, Palawan, covering the West Philippine Sea. This was what it looked like when the Americans were using it. And General MacArthur actually visited Puerto Princesa later on in June of 1945. He wanted to see where the Americans had been massacred and so forth. And when the Americans took over Puerto Princesa, the residents of Puerto Princesa returned, and these are some of them. Some of these might be your relatives, actually. You might, if you enlarge the faces, you might be able to recognize somebody you know. And in 1945, this is what Puerto Princesa looked like. It had been shelled, it had been bombed also by the Americans, so much of Puerto Princesa was in ruins. And another historical site here in this area is Iwahig. So Iwahig was a pre-war colony, it was a pre-war penal colony, and that was used to bring in the very important collaborators, such as Claro M. Recto, Antonio de las Alas, Jose Yulo, Rafael Alunan, all of whom had been active in the Second Republic under President Laurel. So they were all here in Iwahig in 1945. And also Luis Taruk, who was the leader of the Huk Balahap at that time, was also in Iwahig at that time. So Iwahig is a very important area for World War II. MacArthur visited it also to see what it looked like. And among those who were there, Recto and Taruk, among others, were imprisoned in Iwahig. very quickly, the Americans would rebuild what remained of Puerto Princesa, and they rebuilt the airfield, and they housed a CB, or Construction Battalion unit, that helped in rebuilding Puerto Princesa. So this is an interesting 1945 picture showing the Rizal Monument near the cathedral, and it's surrounded by what we call Conset huts. And these were the headquarters, these were the bases of the, or this is where the CBs, or the Navy Construction Battalion men lived in. And this is a closer up picture of that same monument. You can see that it is also holed. So today you have a reconstructed base on it, but it's the same monument. And so this is among the many World War II related tourism sites that we find in the Puerto Princesa area. So we're in a very historic area. Step outside here, we'll see that so much history happened here. Our relatives were involved in the resistance movement, and so this is a very rich World War II related site that I think we should be proud of, and we should better know and recognize what happened here. So thank you very much for listening, and good afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. Ricardo Jose, for that insightful presentation. Now, we will open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, please approach the microphone in the aisle or raise your hand and we will bring a microphone to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Dr. Jose, for that very nice presentation. My question is, they used to say that there are two airfields po. Yung area ng una dong airfield is along Rizal Avenue. But it's parang ano lang po, hindi po verified. So I'd like to know if you have any information on that. So before the second airfield built by the Americans po.
Before the war there was no real big airfield here, so that's why the Japanese had to build what is now the Puerto Princesa International Airport. But it was a temporary kind of emergency airfield that was, Rizal Avenue, part of Rizal, only for small planes. So I think that was they had what they call these emergency airfields before the war, and that was one of them. And I have a list of all the pre-war airfields. I will check, when I get back home, I will check what was here, and I probably have a map of it, and I can share it with you.
Hello. Good afternoon, Dr. Jose. Jed from the tour guide here in Palawan. Now, based on what we saw and what you told earlier, there were 11 survivors from the Palawan massacre. Now, based on the stories that was handed down to us, and based on the accounts by the visit of Don Schlott, that was 2009.
Yes.
The stories that was handed down to us is that there were only 10 survivors, and that Don Schlott was not actually one of them. That was the reason why he himself was the one who scratched his name out of the memorial marker there.
Yeah.
And so the question is, was he really part? Because he said that about 2 years prior to the burning, the day of the burning, he was already, he was able to escape, but then recaptured and brought to Bilibid.
Yeah.
So was he really part of the survivor or not?
I think he was not part of those who escaped because he managed to escape already. but he was one of those who was imprisoned in Plaza Cuartel and survived because the 150 or so were killed, and so only 11 survived. So that includes him, who had escaped and had been recaptured by the Japanese. So in terms of those who survived the actual massacre or those who survived imprisonment in Plaza Cuartel, there were 11, but he was not one who escaped after the massacre. So that's why they include his name in the original list. He was one of the survivors, but he was not there in the actual massacre itself.
So if I will just clarify, he is a prisoner of war,
Yes.
an escapee of prisoner of war, but not the Palawan massacre escapee.
Good afternoon. I'm Gerald Burns. I'm an American living in Puerto Princesa. I've been here for parts of 3 years. And when I first came, totally unaware of the Plaza Cuartel massacre and was very shaken to learn about it. Have since done some research on it. And I'm interested, and this is maybe not quite a question for you, Dr. Jose. I enjoyed your presentation very much, but I understand that the city is planning some new, some renovation of the Plaza Cuartel, and I'd be curious to know, what that is and how actually I might be able to cooperate to contribute to that effort.
Okay, yes, thank you for that. If you remember watching the 2015 presentation, one of the things that they showed was a remodeling of the Plaza Cuartel area. So there were 2 monuments there, and it used to be open to the public, very well landscaped. But already in 2015, there was a plan to rehabilitate it, to make it, I guess, more people-friendly, better documentation. And work actually started on that. But it seems that bones were found there. And because of that, you'd have institutions like the National Museum and other national agencies have to check what's that. And so that's why it's now temporarily closed. But I think once there is clearance from the National Museum, then that project can go in. But there was a plan way back in 2015 to upgrade it and make it more visitor-friendly.
Thank you, Dr. Jose. We have a question from Ms. Debitan, one of the participants via Zoom. Would like to know if the Americans also had seaplanes or did only the Japanese have them? Seaplane area is where the Baywalk now.
Okay, the Japanese used the Puerto Princesa area as a seaplane base. In fact, if you notice the picture, there was a seaplane that had been destroyed. But the Baywalk area today, that also, just outside that, used to be a seaplane base. And I think the Americans used it temporarily. So not only did they use the airfield for the land-based planes, but they also had an area where the Navy in particular could land seaplanes. And the important thing about the American seaplanes was they would fly around. These were big 2-engine planes. They could go fly around, and they would rescue Americans who had been shot down by the Japanese or who had been stranded at sea. So sometimes they would also reach out to guerrillas. So there was a temporary seaplane base as well, yes.
And that concludes the Q&A portion for the first topic. Thank you once again, Dr. Jose. Vietnam, exploring the importance of historical understanding, it is a privilege to welcome an expert who bridges the crucial connection between history and tourism. He is who you can consider as a gentle giant, who is very courteous and shy. One wouldn't think this, given that he is a licensed international tour guide in Vietnam. Currently, he is with Viet Experiences Travel. He had his training from the Saigon Tourist and Training School. He had been a freelance tour guide since 2008 and became a licensed tour guide by the Vietnam National Administration of Tourism in 2015. His historical narratives play a role in shaping the comprehension of the past and their application in tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Pham Tri Ngoc Thap.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ngọc Thật. You can call me NT. I am the tour guide from Saigon, and I'm here to inform you something about the world in Vietnam world, the best place. Okay. Okay, you just see right here, is the Củ Chi tunnels. You know, in the wartime, after French was defeated in 1954 in Điện Biên Phủ in the north of Vietnam, French left Vietnam, and then the U.S. they came here. The U.S. divide Vietnam into two parts. The North Vietnam follow communist, and the South follow capitalism, follow the U.S. And right here, you can see in the wartime, the Củ Chi tunnel is about 250 kilometers long. It was built in 1948 in the French time already. But in the French time, it's just a small tunnel. It was used for hiding, not for fighting. After French left Vietnam, the US came, the communist soldiers. They dig it bigger. In the wartime, it's about 250 kilometers long. Can you see? The tunnel, there are three levels. The level 1 is about 3 meters deep from the ground, and the level 2 is about 7 or 8 meters deep. And the level 3 is about 11 or 12 meters deep. You can see the tunnels, it was built here. You can see the tunnel, it was built along the Saigon River. The Củ Chi tunnel was built near the Saigon River. It's easy to escape. And it's near the Cambodia border because it's easy in the wartime. At the border between the north and the south, very difficult to transfer the weapon or the money directly. That's why the North Vietnam, they transfer from the North Vietnam to Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And here, can you see this area? Can you see the red color? The red color is the communist base. It belongs to the communist soldier all day. And the pink color, you can see in the morning, it belongs to the communist, belong to the South Vietnam. And the night time belong to the communist soldiers. And the green color red, you can see, is the farm. Because in the wartime, the communist soldier, sometimes they become the farmer. Sometimes they hide in the tunnels. And one more reason, the communist soldiers, they choose that area because from the tunnel, can you see the red color? From the tunnels to the city center, it was the capital of the South Vietnam. And the headquarters of the South Vietnam is just about 50 kilometers long. It's easy to fighting. And here, can you see the man with the lid? You see the tunnels, the communist soldier, where they dig the tunnel. It's just enough for one person only. And on the lid, the man with the lid, on the lid, the communist soldier, before they go inside, they put the leaf or the rust. It's similar like the color on that area. And then they go inside. And you know, if the communist soldier, if they think the US soldier can find the entrance, and under the lid, they will hang grenade. They will hang grenade or the bomb. Because if the US soldier, they open the lid, they will activate the bomb. They can wipe out that area. They can kill the US soldier and destroy the entrance. Because from the entrance, the US soldier, if they find the entrance, they can bomb the water into the tunnel to destroy the tunnel. But at that time, very difficult. Because if US soldier bomb water into the tunnels, the water will go inside the route and sometimes go directly to the Saigon River. Can you see the termite nest? Here, the termite nest. It's the handmade. Handmade. Can you see the hole there? That's the air hole to provide oxygen for the tunnels. And you can see the first pictures. For example, the second picture is the entrance to the tunnels. And the first picture is the way out. You go in here, and the communist soldier, they go in here. They can go out very far from the entrance. And right here, you can see, this is the communist soldier. You can see they wear the ring collar. They can hide in the jungle because it's similar like the collar of the leaf. And one more thing. And can you see something behind? You see the second picture, the two men with their parachute. You know where this come from? The parachute. Is the parachute from the US soldiers. If the communist soldier, if the parachutes jump out from the aircraft, and the communists will shoot them, kill them, and they take the parachute, and they will when they wear it, they move in the jungles. The air scout, they fly in the sky. Very difficult to recognize who is communist soldier and who is the US soldiers. Okay, and the next thing, and the next you see, is the Vietnamese cake. Vietnamese cake. But in the wartime, the communist soldier, they will think how to cheat them and how to kill them. They will camouflage, they will make a grenade, but the cover similar like the cake. And the next one, you can see some trap. On the left hand side is the tiger trap. We call the tiger trap because before the US they came here, we used the tiger trap for hunting animal. For hunting animal, that's why it's big. And after the US they come here, we call this one is the booby trap. Booby trap. Booby trap. And the spike in the center you see that was made from the bamboo. Made from the bamboo because in the wartime, the South Vietnam, the communist soldier, they did not have enough money to buy the weapon. That's why they made the weapon from the natural. And this tiger trap, it was not the main purpose, not to kill the enemy, just slow them down. When you can imagine when the US soldier, one person fall into this trap, and that people need 2 or 3 people to take care of them. Yeah, the main purpose just want to slow them down. And then second picture, you can see the first thing is the sticking trap. Can you see the spike is well hidden inside? It's well hidden inside. If the US soldier step in the center, the spike will go out. And they will stuck on the leg. If the US soldier try to move the leg, they will get more damage. Sorry. Can you say again? Yeah. Okay. I can use this one. Okay. In the center, the second picture, can you see? The next one is the clip-in armpit trap. Clip-in armpit trap. You know why? Because you can imagine when one person fall into the trap, the first thing they will do, raise the hand to hold something. That's why the communist soldier, they made the trap when they fall into, the spy will stuck on the armpit. And the next one, and 1, 2, 3, and the third trap is a rolling trap. Rolling trap. When the US soldier fall into the trap, the spy will run from the top to the bottom of the body. They try to go out, run the body again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Can you help me please? Yeah, this one. Yeah. Yeah, you can see when the US soldier fall into this trap, people run on the body. And the next one is the window trap. When the US soldier fall into this trap, they will be stuck on the body of the US soldiers. And the next one, the folding chair trap, we call the crocodile mouth. Yeah. And the next one, the swinging up trap. It's similar like the first trap. The US soldier step in the center, the spy will cut from the bottom of the leg. And the next one, the fish trap. The fish trap. They put like that. And if the US soldier, they fall into this trap, the leg will stuck there. If they try to take the leg out, the spike around the trap, cut their leg. And the last one, the seesaw trap. When the US soldier fall into this trap, this will hit from opposite side. And can you see the spike? You know that where does the spike come from? In the wartime, the US soldier, they want to destroy the tunnel. They drop the bomb. You can imagine that when the bomb, when sometime the bomb explode, the communist soldier will collect the bomb shell. They will collect the bomb shell and then they recycle it. They make the spike like that. Yeah. And if the bomb not explode, the communist soldier, they cut the bomb. They collect the gunpowder and then they recycle it. They make the landmine. Yeah, that's why in the wartime, we usually say use American weapon, fight against American soldiers. Yeah, because they did not have enough money to buy the weapon. And right here, oh sorry. And you can, one more thing, you know, in the wartime, the communist soldiers, you know how to destroy, how to kill the people, how to kill the US soldiers. The communist soldiers, we know if the US soldier come to the communist base, they will take the leg out. The flag, it's similar like this. Can you see for example, you can imagine, let's see the flag from the communist soldier flag. Before they run away, they bury the bomb or the landmine under that. Under the flag, US soldier come, they will take the flag out and wipe out that area and destroy. And they can kill more the US soldiers. And you know, one more thing. Can you see the entrance right in the wartime? The U.S. soldier, they also use the sniffer dog from German. The dog. You know how to avoid it? In the wartime, the communist soldier, they mix the chili or the pepper. They put around the entrance. If the dog come and smell, they cannot know who is soldiers, who is communist, who is US. But that's why cannot use for the long time, because the dog smell the pepper or the chili, they will sneeze. That's sneeze. Yeah, have some problem on the nose. And then the US can know. That's why the communist soldier, they find another way. They go to American base, they steal something. They steal American surf to take a shower. They put around the entrance. When the dog come and smell, they will think that's the US soldiers. Can you see the US soldier? You see the communist soldier? They have. You see the communist soldier? They have a scarf. Yeah, you know. Can I say this? This is a little bit dirty. It's okay. Yeah, on the scarf. You know, if the US soldiers they find the entrance and they throw the tear gas. They throw the tear gas. That's why the communists, I'm so sorry, it's a little bit dirty. The communist soldiers, they pee on that. They pee directly on the scarf and to cover it. Yeah, they pee on it and cover it. Because in the tunnel, very difficult to find the water. Okay, and the tunnels, you can see the level 1. The level 1 like this. Do you know why they have a triangle here? Because sometimes the US soldiers, they drop the bomb. They have the triangle is to stop the landslide. To protect, if the US soldiers drop the bomb, the communist soldier, they will go to this area to hide there. And this one is in dining room and the kitchen. You can see right here, the kitchen. When you cook here, but the smoke very far from the kitchen. Yeah, you can see so many layers. If the air scout, they fly in the sky. If they see the smoke, they will drop the bomb right there. But nothing happened, no damage to the kitchen. And the next room is in the bedroom, and the next is in the warehouse to keep the food. And the next room is in the fighting bunker. It's in the fighting bunker. You can see on the round and the communist soldier, they fight there is a small hole to shoot the gun, to shoot to the leg of the US soldiers. And you know, that side, on your right hand side, that's in the Saigon River. The communist soldier, they built the Saigon River, one more reason, because when high tide, they can hide the entrance. They can hide the entrance. You can see the men try to swim. Yeah. When low tide, low water, the communists can go out and they become the communist soldiers. Because, you know, in this area, because in the battlefield, in the battle, very difficult to find the water. That's why the communist soldiers, they try to make the fountain, the water inside, directly to the tunnel. But not so much. And here, sorry, you can see here, this one and this, they are the trap, the spike. If the US, you know, sometimes communist soldier, they build the entrance. Sorry, wait for me. Sometimes the communist soldier, they build the entrance enough for the big body. For the big body, if the US soldier, they try to go inside, they try to go deeper, they will be stuck there. And the communists, they stand behind and shoot them. You want to ask something? And you know, this year is the big anniversary of the Vietnam on April the 13th, 1975. That's why it's better to come Vietnam. On April the 30, on April the 30, and the next one is the September 2nd. We have the military review. Yeah. Yeah. This one? Okay. You know, when we come to the Vietnam, when we come, for example, I am the tour guide. When we, you are the clients. When you come Vietnam, before you come 1 or 2 days. Before 1 or 2 days, the tour guide like me, we will check the checklist. What to do? For example, do you have any special requirement about the food? Do you have any special requirement about your room, your allergy, anything? And on the first day, after pick you from the airport, I will ask you again to just want to make sure everything's smooth. Sorry.
Okay. So with that, may we ask for questions from the floor if you have anything for NT? No, I have a question.
Yes.
So in the tunnels, do you you always go to a certain place only where they can go under? It's always the same route for everyone, or do you have several tunnels that you're?
You know, in the wartime, in the wartime, the tunnel, there are 1,000 entrance. Yeah, 1,000 entrance. Sometimes fake, sometimes real. Yeah, that's why if you go this side, you can go out very far from here. And you know, in the wartime, the communist soldier, some part, you know, the tunnel, because it's about 250 kilometers long. That's why one person, they live in one area. If they go to another area, they need a local guy.
So in your picture a while ago, the demonstration area is separate from them going to the tunnel.
Where? Or what?
The demonstration area, that one, that's that for the tourist. It's in a different area.
Oh yes.
And then after that, they go to the tunnels.
Oh yes.
Okay.
It's in the entrance. Just want to show, and on that picture, sorry. On that's we need. From beginning, we need the local guy there. Yeah, because on that side, it's the original entrance. Yeah. And if you want to try to go inside the tunnel, you have to walk about 1 hour. You walk about, because for sightseeing, it's about 2 kilometers long. Yeah. Thank you for asking me.
Ay.
Yeah.
Sorry po. Mabuhay. Good afternoon. I'm Christy from Puerto Princesa, Palawan Tour Guide Association. Sir, I just would like to ask, I understand that it's one of the most popular tours that you have there. Do you have specially trained guides to handle the tour, or all your guides can interpret the tunnel tour for the tourists?
You mean need special guys, something like that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Especially specialist guides that are trained mainly for the tunnel tour.
You know, actually, inside the tunnel, we also have the local soldiers. We also have the local soldiers. If you want, you can have a local guy right there. But sometimes the tour guide, like me, for example, you go with me, I go with you on the time there, hold the time there. It's easy for us to communicate. Yeah.
I see. So aside from you as the main guide, you also have guides for each particular area, like community guides, sort of?
Oh, no, because...
Or local guides, or I don't know how you call them.
You mean the local guy, right? You mean
Yes,
the local-
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Actually, every place we have a local guy, but you know, because for example, in the history place, there are some information. We have sometimes we have the different information. That's why if you go there, you can have a local guide.
I see. So
Yeah.
the tunnel, it
Yes.
has a specially trained curator for that particular tour.
On. You mean the special guide about the...
Yes, yes, sir.
We also have.
I see. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for asking. Because the tunnels is in a sensitive place. Yeah. Because nowadays you can visit about 2 kilometers only. Yeah. The tourists, the clients, they can visit the 2 kilometers only. If because some and the rest of the tunnels nowadays the tunnel we can still keep about 100 kilometers only. Yeah. And 90 kilometers is just not allowed for tourists. Yeah. Because the government want to keep secret. Yeah.
Any other questions from the attendees?
Yeah.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. This is Sir Fred from. We're from Manila. No, your talk is about very interesting about booby traps. Just out of curiosity, because this kind of information I only see it from films that features the Vietnam War. In regards to the present status of the tunnels, how are let's say, the government of Vietnam is able to protect the integrity to make sure that these tunnels are still tunnels and not destroyed or rather abandoned?
Sorry. Oh, yeah. You know, actually, the tunnel belong to the military. Yeah, yeah. But that's why, you know, can I say this? That's why nowadays, although it's because it's a secret, the tunnel, because under the tunnel there is one tunnel connecting to Cambodia. That's why it's belong to military. But military is separate with the government.
All right. Okay.
Separate.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you want to?
Good afternoon, sir. Cyril Negocio from City Tourism Department of Puerto Princesa. My question is, a while ago in your presentation, it was mentioned there that for arrivals, you have 600,000 arrivals for the 6 months. And so if you do the math, it's 100,000 a month. So do you have a capacity to go inside? How many or maximum number of visitors per day? Who can go inside the tunnels?
Okay, thank you for asking. You know, actually the tunnels, nowadays the tourists, they can try about maximum 100 meter only. 100 meter only. And another side, but sometimes about 70%, the clients, the tourists, they try the minimum 20 meter.
20 meters.
20, because inside the small, you have to bend your knees. You have to work like this. It's very small. Somebody cannot, somebody have scare the cramp, the tiny place. Yeah, that's why inside most of the time the tourists, they work on the jungle part and they see. Yeah, and inside the tunnels, they will try a maximum 100 meter only.
And then they can go back already. They can go back after 100 meters. Or there's an exit.
Oh, okay. If the tunnel, as I told everybody, when the tunnel here, you go out every day. If you try 100 meter, you go out and you wait for the group there.
So for a day, how many visitors approximately can go in?
Can go
without, with the question connected to his question, the integrity, without being in danger, putting it in danger, the tunnels, because of course, there's a maximum number of people who can go inside.
Yeah. Inside.
That would still make it safe.
You know, for example, last month I asked them, the people there, they just about one day, maximum 1,000 people. One day.
That's just for one tunnel.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, the tunnel there nowadays there are two places. But the most place is about 50 kilometer. If you want, it's about 50 kilometer from the city center. And another tunnel is near the Cambodia. It's about 20, 30 kilometer far away from the first tunnels.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Underground river. May limit. Tapos may limit ng tao.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good.
I'm Sita Suarez. We run a school here in San Jose. So I'm very curious about local tourism, like for example, the new generations after World War II. Are the locals, especially the children who are studying history, are they also part of the visitors of the tunnels? Like, are they exposed? Because there's a lot of for historical tourism. Sometimes the locals don't even realize that this happened in their own place. No, so I'm just curious how much of the local residents or the local domestic tourists actually go and are aware of the place, yeah, and the history and everything. Especially because it's also very, I would say, violent.
No problem.
Yeah, so there. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You mean like how many domestic tourists, right?
Yes, especially the young ones. Yeah.
Nowadays, the young one in 1 month is about 500. Not many people. You know, actually, I'm so sorry to say this, but in Vietnam, actually, not many people interested.
Yeah.
Interesting, and we are very far from the city center.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of the tourists, they are foreigner because they come here. They come Vietnam to understand about the Vietnam war.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd also like to know if there's a collaboration with the Department of Education in terms of enhancing historical knowledge of the young people, especially with that kind of history. And because I'm like other countries also, they really teach their children, the next generation, of what happened, the previous generation. No? So unfortunately in Asia it's not very popular. Yeah, but I'm just curious about Vietnam.
Oh, you mean for example, okay, yes, nowadays the school, school every 2 or 3 months from the kindergarten, even from the kindergarten, they bring the children to the War Permanent Museum, to the President Palace, to the tunnel. But inside the tunnel, it's very hot. It's not good for. You must be sure your health. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
And that concludes the Q&A portion for the second topic. Thank you once again, Mr. Anti. And for our participants who wish to ask our speaker more questions, you may reserve them for now and ask again later during our panel discussion.
It is with great honor that we present our final speaker for this event. She is the chairman and president of Fragile Travel Corporation, a staunch advocate of the tourism industry through active involvement in travel and trade associations. Currently, she is a member of the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce of the Philippine Islands. She is also an appointed member of the Commission on Higher Education Technical Committee for Hotel and Restaurant Management and Tourism. In previous years, she has served as president of the ASEAN Tourism Association. She was also the executive vice president of the Tourism Congress of the Philippines. She has also served as president of the Philippine IATA Agents Association, Philippine Travel Agencies Association, and the Federation of Tourism Industries of the Philippines. With her extensive expertise in travel and tourism, we will explore the remarkable journey of a salute to Valor Palawan liberation, uncovering how lost pieces of history are being revitalized and integrated into sustainable tourism circuits. Let us all welcome Miss Eileen C. Clemente.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I'll just proceed to my presentation. Before that, I just want to say that I really love learning unique stories about each place I visit. A while ago, so you heard from Dr. Jose and from NT, so more or less, they've done their research in each place. Um, they, that's very, very important if you're creating an entire circuit. So that's why we have them here. Thank you to both of you. So now I'll be explaining how we came up with the circuit for Palawan Liberation. So getting started, how did it happen? So I always say it's 50% luck, 50% research, and everything else after that. It actually started with our moderator here. I was working for them in the USAID Compete, and then she challenged me one day because I kept on talking. I love talking. So I kept telling her about my plans for World War II. This was in 2013 because I said World War II is not as prevalently discussed in the Philippines considering the American-Filipino friendship, so to speak. So I took it as an opportunity instead to possibly showcase really the lost pieces of history of a certain place and continue on from there. So that we can feature really the culture and heritage of a certain destination. It's a good thing that the people of Palawan, both government and the private sector, were really unified in putting together this, this group that started the Palawan Liberation. But of course, I had to start, my biggest issues were the lack of belief also of the group that we can manage this project together and that it can be done. And the history of itself of Palawan to this day is not still sufficiently appreciated by its citizens. So it was really a bit difficult to explain what really happened to people who never heard of the story. So that was very difficult. So, of course, I turned to I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people know the SMART acronym. So it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, it has to be relevant, and it has to be time-bound. Time-bound was easy because everyone knew 2015 was the time that I had to fix, considering it was late 2013 already, and how can you really produce a big event of World War II in such a small amount of time? We needed to put the goal in a way that we can present something in 2 years. So what I thought was we didn't need to finish the whole thing in 1 year, but create several succeeding events that would make it sustainable. So what were the other things that were challenges to me? So there were really too many things I wanted to accomplish. There were just too many moving pieces also. And of course, the permits that we needed in each location was very difficult, and to mobilize people was also difficult. Of course, there's always too little funds. Even if you dream big, you really have to find a way for it to be funded. And then, of course, too little time for research. And there's not a lot of, as I mentioned, not a lot of people to appreciate and understand it. So we put it in an encapsulated form of what we wanted to uncover, to do. So we have to uncover or rediscover lost pieces of history and preserve the country's culture and heritage, which is a long-standing vision, and then give recognition to war veterans and heroes during the Japanese occupancy, and also identify and feature the historic destinations of Palawan, and lastly, of course, to raise the funds for it. But I failed to take into account that even if there was a lot of, as Mabel mentioned, a lot of historical pieces that you may have an affinity to, you still may not appreciate it completely. So I really hope that you all you saw the names of that Dr. Jose mentioned a while ago, and there are others. I hope some of you here have relatives or friends who have them as who know them, so that you can appreciate what they've done for your country also, not just to Palawan. Okay, so this was the first group actually. But Mabel, I'm not sure you're in the picture though. Are you? Ayun. Okay, so these were the first people, including people from Westcom also, the PNP, and so many others. So this was the first group. So that was the start of making a circuit. Have a group that you can count on for the different things, because at the end of the day, you have to accept that you can't do it all. So you have to work with a group. And then, so this is the first task force before we added a few others. So now, we have all of these people to include, although USAID is not there anymore, but we also have already the NHCP, the CAAP, among others, the Department of Defense, the Philippine Veterans Association, and so on. So these were those that added. So the mainstays of the Palawan Liberation is the governor's office, the city office, Palawan Tourism Council, and ourselves. Also, special thanks to the Veterans Affairs of the U.S. and the Oregon Military National Guards, who were the ones based here during that time, and particularly of the 41st Division. So these are all the patches that they wear on their uniform, just so you know. And of course, our research, apart from Dr. Jose's work, came from two major books, The Last Man Out and As Good as Dead. Both of them were based on MacDowell's book, who wrote about, because he was one of the prisoners who escaped during the massacre. So, as I mentioned, the research also came from Dr. Jose. Of course, Budman was a major, of course, he had the museum at that time, so really a lot of the artifacts were with him. And then Bart Duff was the one who connected us with Oregon at that time. So it was his nephew that was based there, and they really wanted to let us know about the history of Palawan. And though you don't know this, and I was lucky enough to visit the place in Oregon, the National Guard in Oregon, They actually even have a room dedicated to Palawan, and they call it Palawan. And they have a few more artifacts that are there. So what are the things that I needed to do? So apart from fixing the places with the rest of the group, I really had to rely on some, as I wrote here, you had to tickle the senses so that the experience of each visitor is complete. So when it comes to the vision, of course, when you rehabilitate certain places, you already give them a sense of that. And then also we created the documentary you saw as you entered here. That was the sense of sight that they needed to have in order for them to appreciate it. The second was sense of hearing. I had to make sure that the music that you heard a while ago, the composition, we had it specially made just for this event. So I hope you can always find it in the YouTube, Palawan Liberation. And you'll find it 2015, 2016, 2017. And we would always use the same music. And if you want to see the documentary with the orchestra playing it, you would find it under Reggie Espiritu's YouTube also. One thing that didn't make it complete, although we wanted to have it, was the sense of smell. In Palawan, I don't know, do you know the bisbis? Okay, so the bisbis is a local endemic dayak. So it's similar to the smell of L'Occitane verbena. So I wanted to replicate that smell, but it didn't, it wasn't available at that time, so we weren't able to have that. But it would have been good, so anyway, we'll keep it in mind for later. So the highlights of the commemoration would include already, as I mentioned, the confluence of people already from the US to Australia to the Philippines. They were all in this one event that we had in 2015, and we had the veterans from both the US and the Philippines as well. And of course, we had the parade. So visually, it was really a good time. And then we had even the different speeches from the different important personalities. Mark Johnson being the one here. And he was the political officer of the US Embassy. So we went as far as even having the representation, not just from the American forces, but also from the embassy itself. And I think on the 22nd, the veterans that we have already identified may be getting their congressional medal also from the US. So we're looking forward to that. So just to mention the milestones, we are able to now create, actually it's more than 6, no? There's actually 8, but I just mentioned this because this is the circuit that we can have here. And what we did was to inaugurate one different site every year until the until the pandemic hit us. So, but again, the research is not yet complete. I'm sure we will identify more. We haven't even gone to Brooks Point for that matter. And that's also a very significant area. So for this one, just to mention how we did it. So 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018, we had the Plaza Cuartel just to show the difference from what it used to be and how it is to the present. And then we also had the Iwahig Prison, where NHCP gave them funding to rehabilitate the recreational area. And then the Baywalk was also inaugurated to be a part of the site. And even the secretary himself, Secretary Lorenzana at the time, was here to inaugurate that. So the significance of the places is already known to the higher ups. We really want to ensure that the people will be able to appreciate what you have. And then, of course, the airport, as already mentioned by Dr. Jose. Also, in Plaza Cuartel, we were able to have the English marker apart from the Filipino marker. And then, as I mentioned, so this was how it looked like before. And with the NHCP, we were able to have the rehabilitated recreational area. Yan. So, we hope that this all continues. So, I'm just going to show you. And then, of course, the Mendoza, the Higinio Clark Mendoza Junior World War II Memorial Museum is also getting a facelift or has been expanded further. And most importantly, we have recognized 119 war heroes. It looks a lot, but that's only 1% of the total 1,000 guerrillas and Filipino soldiers that fought for us here in Palawan. So we really have far to go and little time to do it because they are like 93, 94 to 100 years old. So it's very difficult. And so all of these different factors are coming together to make the destination or the circuit stronger. So we even had the commemoration day as already in an ordinance, both by the governor's office and the provincial government and for the city government. And also we were able to have the souvenirs during 2015. We also have this year, we already have the 80th year commemorative coin for it also. Do you have a copy of the commemorative coin? We'll just pass it around and show it also. So it's for sale, and all the proceeds, of course, will eventually go to the task force. So what are still on the checklist that we haven't done? I just listed some because there's really a lot. So it's always an ongoing thing. So what we really need to do is make everything sustainable. To make it sustainable, we have to ensure that research, as Dr. Jose has presented a while ago, there were like a few pictures that are new for us. So he has also been continuously researching World War II and specifically to Palawan. He's done a lot more research on that as well. So in the checklist, again, if there can be more advocates and benefactors, the better. Of course, the improvement of curation. In 2018, we began already to have the Japanese included to have a more balanced curation also of all our different sites because, of course, we are part of the Allied Forces, so we only hear also about the American side more or less. So we want it a little bit more balanced or more universal, so to speak, and also hear their stories. I'm sure there are like romantic love stories there also of a Japanese and a Filipino or something like that. So we want to be able to discover even the small stories that we may have. And then, of course, interview the Filipino veterans. Again, we're short of time on that, but we hope we get to do that. And then the recognition of our war veterans. Unfortunately, some are really still live in remote places in Palawan, so we are not able to reach them. And then we want to, well, we wish we can really upgrade the photo walls that we have established in each of these locations, because they are not really outdoor, more permanent installations. So we want it to be a little bit more weatherproof, so to speak. And then introduction of unique souvenirs. So we haven't even done this. Of course, the first in my checklist is to really work on the bis-bis. If somebody here want to, proliferate bis-bis a little more and use it for scents, then it's one thing that probably we will be purchasing in the long run. And then, of course, because usually if you go to other places, the Filipino souvenirs are usually the weave and all of that. I understand, but there are so many others that you can also think about, and you don't have to copy one place after another and after another. So the magnets, the patches that I mentioned that are put in the uniforms, because there are collectors of patches. And the more rare it is, the higher the price goes also. So if we're the only ones with a 41st Infantry Division of Oregon, of the National Guard, then if they can only find it here, then you'll find it as something that people will buy more. And then, of course, nobody has done the World War II gadgets, which is available actually in Angie's place, because the gadgets are in the museum, so you just have to replicate that and create, like the spy gadgets that you have, like the thermos with a false underside. You can do that. And then books, coloring books and books. Then you will be able to teach more people how to appreciate it just by using tools like books and coloring books. Of course, the shirts, the World War II uniforms and caps, especially for the kids. I'm sure they use it for Halloween or some other, for their plays or whatever. I'm sure it will be also something that they'll buy. Caps or chocolate molds for World War II items are some of the things that we're thinking about. Other limited edition items. So I'll pass this around. This is actually the coin for, I don't know how much. How much is that? So it's 1.5. So that's the limited coin for the 80th year. So I'll just let it go around. And then there are several others. And then of course, having said that, there should be proper auxiliaries in place. The rest stops. Disaster management, is it completely available? When we talk about disaster, these are not just earthquakes, but simple things like for, I don't know, somebody having a heart attack somewhere, and you can respond right away. And then, of course, the Visitor Information Center is always something we discuss. So I think one of the places that are part of the tourism circuit may have a Visitor Information Center. So these are just some of the things. Other milestones well, I've mentioned all the milestones, but other milestones that we want to really have is that there would be a recognition of the circuit in itself. That's really very important, because right now, while we have delivered this information to different tour operators, different tour guides, not a lot still use this. They may use part of the spiel for it, for their city tour or what, but it's not usually used as a recognized tour. So we want it to be a recognized tour. With that, I end my presentation. So if you have any other questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen, for that transformative presentation. We've heard a lot of fascinating points today. At this juncture in our program, we would like to invite questions from our audience for Ms. Eileen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Flevi Karim from Palawan State University. Though this is not a question, but rather, I think, just, my thoughts and recommendations also. I remember when I was still studying for my graduate studies, one of the city tourism officers of one municipality in Quezon Province what do they do is for their local heroes, as early as elementary, what they do, from a local ordinance, they wanted it that from the very start of the elementary, students or children are very well known of their local heroes. So kasama na po yun sa kanilang parang hekasi or history. So that is incorporated in their, kumbaga, parang studies. Also with their outputs, it just came into mind when you made mention earlier about the souvenir items, the coloring books. But it would also be a great help siguro if, aside from the local ordinance of putting it into a working or a, what's that? The act of the liberation, but also to have also a local ordinance both for province as well as the city to commemorate also the local heroes, especially during the World War II. Because from what we experience also, it's not very known about what is really, what is the liberation, what is the importance of Palawan as part of the liberation in the World War II. So it's just that siguro it would also help also our youngsters to be more appreciative if as early in elementary they're also known and put into also of their requirements or also their outputs. For example, again, for the souvenirs, the coloring books also, that would make them also appreciate of the local liberation of Palawan. That's all.
Thank you. So currently, as I have mentioned, the ordinance has already been done both by the city and the provincial government. The inclusion in your CHED curriculum is a different story. That has to be done by somebody else. Hindi ko na alam. Baka makasagot ka. So, Ms. Tina will reply in that behalf for me.
Thank you. This is nice actually because when you get to a place, there are certain things that are unique to a place. And so there is no reason for you to develop a subject. It can be added as an elective in your curriculum. Remember that there are 15 units of electives that can be submitted as part of your requirements for a curriculum. I'm just thinking that maybe this is a good time for you to start discussing about, I remember there is tour guiding in your subject, that maybe you can actually put elements of what was just heard now to actually make sure that everyone knows about this particular part of your history. This cannot be replicated in Metro Manila. This cannot be replicated in other parts of the Philippines, but it is uniquely something that Palawan can hold very dear to their hearts. And so maybe as a CHED Technical Committee member, together with Eileen, we're actually we value the contextualization of items that are related to tourism and hospitality that are unique to a particular destination. And so this one, I'm very happy to actually see this as part of the TKC movement that is being done to make you aware of what's happening in your area. Sometimes kasi the locals are actually clueless also of what's happening here. And so movements like this actually help you come to fore na, oh, we should have this somewhere. And maybe this can be, that's what we were discussing over lunch, or maybe that this can be something that can be part of a tour guide's guide, where you put really stories about what happened in that particular era or something. And, you know, the stories that you can get, like mentioned by Eileen, would be, maybe there were love stories that happened as a result of what Americans coming here, or maybe, you know, all of this can actually put flavor to what you have in this area. So maybe that can also be an input in your research class. Diba? Remember, you have research, a research subject, and that can be an output that you can have as well. Ang daming ways to attack this particular, because there has to be some ownership on the program, and the local schools here can really put value into creating that material. Thank you.
Thank you. Also for DepEd, if you want to include it, I think there's a way to do it. I'm not an expert, but I know you can integrate it inside your DepEd, the different strands or whatever.
Hi, Miss Eileen, Angie Mendoza, again of the World War II Museum. I'd just like to share in relation po sa question, or sa suggestion ni Ma'am from PSU that January 24, together with the city government, they celebrated H. Mendoza Day. So it's an ordinance already. So it's celebrated every year, and this year na-celebrate po through the city government. So may wreath laying din po sa Mendoza Park. And also, I'd like also to share sa World War II Memorial Museum, ginagawa, part po kami ng performance task ng mga bata, and Palawan State University, pilot, they send, the teachers parang they send their students for performance tasks together with the parents, and also they appreciate, lalo na yung mga bata tsaka mga magulang din, nakikita nila, uy, nandito pala ang lolo ko, nandito pala ang ano. So, kung yung mga local students dito, if you can visit the World War II Museum, meron dong Palawan Fighting 1000 ng local guerrilla heroes natin. Tatanggap po kami ng pictures ng mga lolo nyo. Makita nyo, magugulat kayo minsan yung iba, ay, nandito pala ang lolo ko or ang relative ko. So, I'd like to invite them to go visit the World War II Museum kasi this is what is being discussed. And because of the Palawan Liberation Task Force and the yearly celebration of the Palawan Liberation, so we have involved, besides the provincial government, the city government, there's also DepEd, both province and city. So, so aware naman po yung local DepEd officials, and we are starting to talk about including this in the curriculum. But for once, the World War II Museum has also signed a MOA with Palawan State University Philippine Studies. They have Palawan, we have a MOA with them. So, nag-i-intern po sa amin ang Palawan State University students, especially yung Philippine Studies. So, these are the steps taken now here locally.
Angie, if I'm not mistaken, it's not just pictures, diba? Artifacts of your lolos that you're...
Yeah, kasi meron din pong nagdo-donate, and then we put it donated by the family, because sayang naman po yung mga nandun lang inaanay, although pwede rin pala gawin nating termite this presentation. And anyway, pero sayang naman kung anayin, di ba? So, at least doon ma-honor natin yung memory. Instead na sa aparador, kung may alam po kayo, pwede natin ilagay sa museum, at ilagay po natin with proper attribution para naman po ma-honor and ma-appreciate po ng ibang tao yung ating ang ginawa ng sacrifice na ating mga lolo. And then po, yung question ko po, Mama Eileen, if may question ako is moving forward kasi we know this is a separate we know that the Plaza Quartel is closed now. So I'm taking advantage of the fact also that the city government is here and the provincial government tourism officers are here. So maybe would like to discuss how to move forward in dealing with the national government agencies in relation to the site kasi parang there's like a long back and forth between national agencies, National Museum, NHCP. So parang we'd like to ask sana if you have any suggestions on how we move forward so that we can use the site and move forward on the management. Kasi pinaklose, so parang merong standstill. Sayang naman po yung time, marami pong cruise ship na dumadating, hindi sila makapasok. So yun po. So parang steps forward. I think si Miss Eileen tsaka si Miss Twinkle, we would like to ask for suggestions on how we can move forward for this po. Yung sa Plaza Quarter specifically po.
On the short term, I think we've requested already where to install the photo wall, diba? Kahit it's inside, but it's very visible so that you can see it. Correct ba ako? Tama, diba? So something like that for the short run.
Yeah.
And then we'll just have to sort this out separately.
For the current photo walls in Plaza Quartel, so we installed new, or not new, but replaced the previous ones so that it looks fresh again. So when the quartel is closed, the photo walls are inside, right in front of the gates, which are currently closed. Pero they will also put the photo walls outside.
For the event.
For the event, and then once the quartel closes again, they'll put it back inside for safekeeping. But that's for the movable photo walls, right?
For short-term basis, and then we'll just discuss that outside of the seminar. Yung ganun. Thank you. Sorry. I forgot to mention the whole point of the Palawan liberation. The importance of the Palawan liberation is because if we didn't stop the goods coming from the Japanese side, here in Palawan, the World War II would not have ended in 1945. That's the most important portion because when we embargoed the goods, that's more or less like the start of the ripple effect of things. So there. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, Ms. Eileen, I just have a question. First of all, congratulations on this passion project. But I think my question goes back to 2015. So when you first started this project, did you have an initial vision of creating a tourism circuit already? And if you did, who were your intended target markets then? And have they been tapped in the process of even now?
Well, the market is very, very big. But of course, we started with the basic of the veteran. I'll answer your second question first. So, of course, we went to the veterans because, of course, their time is more limited than any other market. And then, of course, the Palaweños being the second. And then, supposed to be, we would have the prisoners coming from Bataan and... ano yun? Doc? Saan na nga galing? Bataan and Corregidor ba? Tama ba? Bataan and Corregidor. So, those who would have relatives should be here. But we were really banking on the U.S. veterans to be the first because, of course, as you know, inbound from another country to the Philippines would also be more viable for the sites to be more alive because the economic things that they can bring in is higher, of course. So those were the first two target markets, or three. And then, of course, the education, so that the children would be the next one, because, of course, they would have the regular field trips and so on. So those were the main markets that we thought of. And then we thought, in 2018, we thought of bringing the Japanese. So they came here already, but we weren't able to sustain it because it was the pandemic thereafter. So we have to renew it again. But the Japanese started already appreciating what we were doing. So we just have to go back to those. As to, had we had the intention of the circuit, in a way, yes, but it was more of me thinking of how could I make this sustainable? So I knew there were other sites that could be inaugurated on a yearly basis. But to form the circuit, that came in 4 years later when we had like 4 different sites already.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen. We have received a message via Zoom from Ms. Debitan saying, recently the governor's residence has been opened. Hopefully, this will be included in the historical circuit.
It's already included in the circuit. In fact, the tour guides training tomorrow includes the Immaculate Conception, Immaculate Conception and the governor's residence in that tour guides training. So yes, it's included.
That brings us to the end of...
Okay, foremost po again, thank you po for the effort for this passion project kasi we all know that when it comes to World War II history, very little is written about the involvement of Palawan in the country's history. Now, ang question ko po is when it comes to identifying the Palawan liberation sites, how far have we come? Marami pa po bang na-identify na that can be included in the Palawan Liberation Circuit or marami pang kailangan pa pong i-identify? Mga ilang percentage na po?
Medyo mahirap sagutin yan well, this is in my mind. There are, as I mentioned, Brooks Point is still a ways to go, no? So talagang there's a lot there that still need to be also be recognized. We've done the Calamianes Islands already, but still not enough for me. I'm sure there are more. And then, of course, the diving portion, there's still a lot more curation to be done. So they are at different stages of what we can do. So very different. And then, when it comes to how to know which ones you need to recognize already, number one is, again, there are other auxiliaries you have to take care of. The rest stops going to that area. So Brooks Point has not yet been addressed so far in terms of where we're going, because when we develop a site, we have to make sure that there are the auxiliaries that are present also. So that's why we're still doing that for now.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen. And that brings us to the end of our question and answer session. Thank you to everyone who posed such thoughtful questions. And a special thank you once again to Ms. Eileen for sharing her expertise and engaging with our participants.
Let us all welcome Dr. Maria Ch.
Baka meron ka ring sasabihin, Twinkle.
Our panel moderator is a member of the Board of Advisor at the Asian Institute of Management, Dr. Andrew Elton Center for Tourism. She has extensive experience in tourism research and consulting for government, the private sector, and international development partners. She also served as a consultant or researcher for various organizations, including USAID, AUSAID, APEC, the Philippine Study Network, and the Philippine Institute of Development Studies, to name just a few from her extensive portfolio. Let us all welcome Dr. Maria Charilyn S. Rodolfo as she facilitates the panel discussion and provides a synthesis of what has been discussed.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. I'd like to request Dr. Jose and also Mr. NT to kindly join us here on stage for the discussion. Just short one, because I think we've heard a lot of questions already from the audience. Okay, so actually, my first question is addressed to Professor Jose, to Dr. Jose, because as we have heard, he is with the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, and he knows also what's happening in other areas of the country that also have similar, I think, initiatives, just like here in Palawan, so Bataan plus other areas. Now, from your perspective, Dr. Jose, how can we encourage more Filipinos, related to one of the questions of Ms. Suarez a while ago, how can we encourage more Filipinos to appreciate these lost pieces of history? From your perspective, having worked with the PIVAO for quite some time, and as a researcher also, an historian. Thank you.
Well, there are challenges in doing that, but basically, what I've done is when I teach upper level history at UP. So I teach the American and Japanese periods, and in the graduate level, I teach Japanese occupation. So the students come from all over the Philippines, and I tell them, you focus on your particular place. And they begin to realize that, there's a lot of history in their own respective places. And it's a trickle-down thing, because many of them are teachers, and when they go back to Los Baños or they go back to Davao, they already know, they've already done some work in my classes. So that's one way of doing it, but I can only reach so many. One thing that we have with the Philippine Veterans Bank, I think we brought it here once. There's a traveling exhibit of photographs showing the Philippines during World War II. And panels were always added to add a separate panel for a place that they're going to. So when we started it in Lingayen, it was really basically Lingayen, Dagupan, and then Manila and others. And then we moved it to, let's say, Baguio. There's a panel on Baguio. Then there's another panel on Los Baños when we moved it to Los Baños. And so everywhere it goes with a particular panel on that place, the people who go there, and these are students and people, they're put in malls, so they're very visible. And people get to see, these are pictures of our place. And they took it for granted. In some cases, you even find relatives of those on the pictures, hey, lolo ko yun. And that begins to make them excited. So I think the stories are very, very exciting. The problem is how to get it out there. One way, I think, is through a YouTube. For example, we put it in YouTube. There are 2 or 3 rather good YouTube channels focusing on World War II in the Philippines. So they put pictures, they put stories, and that's one way of doing it, reaching out. So the thing is that about YouTube, there's no index. It's hard to go back to something there, but the main thing is to popularize it. And other places, for example, up in La Union, they have a place called Baksil Ridge, where the guerrillas won. They also commemorate that every year. They're very proud of it because the Filipino guerrillas won in that battle. They came up with a comic book, and they distribute that comic book to whoever's interested. And then they say, oh, lolo ko yun, and so forth. And so I think maybe you can, instead of just a regular book or a coloring book, a comic book would also be interesting here. And then you focus on real people from here that you see the friendships that were made, and I think that personalizes it. So I think personalizing it and showing that these are real people in a real place here, that will be able to attract people.
Yeah, because I think here in the room we have a very good mix of members from the academe, faculty, then we have a lot of students, and we also have from the private sector. So if there's one thing that you'd like them to somehow maybe invest as maybe as share to this, let's say, advocacy, what would it be?
Yeah, there are different sectors, and I think different sectors can contribute different things. So, Philippine Veterans Affairs Office has been doing a very good job in trying to recognize living veterans or their families. But the private sector can invest in helping improve the sites and publicize this. So the mass media sector can publicize this. And again, education is very important, because if it does become part of curriculum, the local history part, especially in Puerto Princesa and Palawan, would help very much. So I think the mixed nature of the audience is something that, everyone can contribute his or her little share in a particular sphere.
Is there particular research that you'd like to do which maybe could be of interest to our members from the academe here?
I'm working on several histories. Actually, I'm semi-retired at this point. I'm trying to translate Japanese books into English. And in fact, one thing that I will do when I go back home is check if there are any Japanese materials, individual accounts of Japanese veterans who were here. Perhaps the love stories will come out there. Yeah. But there's a lot, it's a major untapped source. Japanese works in Japanese. And we don't, it's a whole library by itself that most people are not aware of. That's one. Another one is, apart from Japanese, there are works in Spanish, there are works in other languages. There's Australians, the Australians. But the works in Spanish, for example, are actually very interesting. Not all here, I don't know if there's anything from here, but from Manila, for example, there are 2 or 3 Spanish accounts which have never been consulted. There's even a French account, which is very, very interesting. So I'm trying to translate all of those slowly, and I'm trying to identify the units that were here. So we know the 41st Infantry Division was here, but the ones who were, remember the Rizal statue and the concert huts beside, that was the 84th Naval CB Battalion. And yeah, so you can identify who those people are and maybe contact some of them. And for the Japanese side, it's a little more difficult. But who were the Japanese here? What unit was here? I can easily find that information, but I've never tried to do it. But so to give voice to the other side, I think that's another project. So there's several other things.
So maybe if there's anyone here actually who would be interested to pursue, that kind of research, we have Dr. Jose actually here, who is our expert. Now, before I ask a question to address to Eileen related to the circuit, I just would like to inquire with Mr. NT, in your tours, how do you promote responsible tourist behavior? Because have you experienced vandalism of the sites? Because sometimes there are tourists whom we cannot really control. So how do you promote responsible tourist practices or behavior in your historical tours and in the sites?
You mean how promote?
Yeah, what do you do to make sure that the tourists don't vandalize, or they don't write anything on the let's say the walls in the tunnels, or how do you make them behave in a responsible way?
To make a responsibility for the tunnel, right?
Yes, the tourists. Yeah.
When I go to the tunnels,
What do you tell the tourists so that they will behave well? Meaning they won't write anything on the wall and vandalize,
They write
or write anything on the wall, of
you
the
mean
tunnels.
to write something?
Yes, which they shouldn't actually do. So how do you make them behave or act very responsible?
Okay, for example, when we go to the tunnels, some tourists, they write some something not good, right? Yeah, I just tell them because it's in a history place, the government, it's in a history place, and Vietnamese will respect for the people who died for peace. Yeah, that's why please show respect to this place because it belongs to everybody, belongs to Vietnamese. Yeah.
Yep. And then you mentioned in your presentation that you already have like 600,000, let's say, tourists in 6 months.
Oh, yes.
And if there is like a limit to the capacity in the tunnel, what happens now to those who cannot, let's say, enter the tunnel? Or they really want to enter, but sorry, you cannot enter. So what are the options now for them?
You mean because when you go to the tunnels, I will tell them because the tunnel is in a tiny it's in a tiny place. Please follow the local guide or soldiers there, because you go some there. Because if you try to go inside, you don't follow our rules. You will be because tiny is a. You have to make sure your health is okay. Your heart attack, high blood pressure. Yeah, that's if you go there, you have anything happen to you, you be responsibility for that. And if you go inside, it's very difficult because you just one way only. You cannot go back. Yeah, that's why you must follow the local guy there, the soldier there. If you get lost, very difficult because the soldier go first and I am the last person go with them. Yeah, that's why very difficult to get lost.
So, so far, what has been your most memorable experience as a tour guide in that particular tour, the tunnel tour? That you can share with us, the most memorable experience as a tour guide. Yeah.
Because there is one time, because when I asked about the tunnels, because one person, one client, at that time about before COVID time, she about 25, 26 years old. And when she go there, as she go to the tunnel, before that, I asked them, do you have any problem with your health? Okay, she say, no, I can go. But when they go, and that time it's the peak season, the high tourist season. It's so crowded. And when she go there, it takes about 50 minutes to bring her out. Yeah. Because she scared the cramped place, the tiny place. And she breathed so fastly. And the the local guy there, the soldiers, say, okay, relax. But she say she's still scared. Yeah.
And then I think related to the question on resilience, and readiness. So do you receive like regular training on how to handle such cases, like first aid, response,
Because actually, you mean the aid for?
Yeah, for let's say tourists who would let's say faint or who couldn't breathe well. So do you receive regular training? Is that done every year?
Okay, actually, the tour guide like me in Vietnam, the tour guide cannot try to help them. Cannot do that. The tour guide like me. For example, the clients, they faint. The tour guide like me cannot do anything. We must ask for help from the hospital, directly from the doctor. The tour guide cannot do anything. For some clients, some tourists, they want me to show them the pharmacy. For example, show them the pharmacy. I just show them there. I go and I try to translate, but I cannot buy the medicine from the pharmacy and give directly to the tourists. We cannot do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing
and for asking.
those challenges of the tour guiding in your area. And then Eileen, okay, so thank you for showing all those pictures and the memories of a decade ago. So again, we have here students, faculty, and the private sector. If there's one thing that you'd like to engage them in the next year or two, what would be, let's say, those 2 or 3 items so that we can somehow complete the circuit and close or narrow down the gaps as envisioned?
Well, two major things, but I have the third, which is on the souvenirs. I really hope you can start creating different creative souvenirs for different ages, because usually if you look at souvenirs from other places or current souvenirs here, it's only for one audience. It's just the regular 20-year-old person who, but you can create different kinds of souvenirs. That's the third one. But the first is really to appreciate your own circuit, and really know how it feels to be a veteran, a prisoner of war, and even an antagonizer. So if you have that value, even your daily living, I mean, there are still a lot of bullies in school, so to speak. But the experiences of the veterans also having gone through this is also an example for you. So be close to it, make it more intimate for you. That's the first one. Second, if you really cannot be persuaded by the emotions, I'll just give you an example. USS Midway, the ship, the tourism there, the revenues they earn is $30 million for a year. Cochin Tunnel is $3 million. So if you really preserve the site, what is $1 million? That's still a lot. So it is your duty, and even for everyone's appreciation, that we are putting this to you because we also want each of you to earn. And this is just the direct revenue. I'm still not discussing the indirect revenue. So if you have both the direct and indirect, it would be bigger than what you think it is. But of course, there's the maintenance of the place. But you need to maintain the place to encourage that. If you remember the fire of Notre Dame, they said, we'll build it in a year. Because they knew immediately that without the Notre Dame, it was a big loss on tourist activities alone for those people visiting Notre Dame. That's why they said, we'll rebuild it in a year after the fire. So just think of that also when you think of the income that it can generate for all of you, apart from valuing the sentiments that it brings.
And then just a follow-up question on what Prof. Tina discussed a while ago. So do you think there is like that big chance or opportunity to have, this different educational or education-related institutions to contribute to the upscaling and, to make this Palawan liberation not just confined here in Palawan, but also be part of our educational tourism program or portfolio as a country?
In the trifocal system, there is definitely a way for you to integrate at each level at DepEd, TESDA, and CHED. Now, when it comes to CHED, where we are both the technical panels, just remember that the CMO coming from CHED is just on curriculum. It's not on syllabus, it's not on the content, the course content. It is in the course content that you can really put and integrate the different local things that you think are very important. So I think currently they can already do that regardless of the curriculum, because the curriculum is just that, the curriculum.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from our audience? Yes, please. Oh, we also have tourism officers coming from other municipalities of Palawan. Yes, please. Kindly introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Good afternoon po. I'm Jubel Kabatingan, tourism officer of Culion, Palawan. One of the municipality in Palawan. I don't know if people here knows about Culion. The first time I attended, when I first got into the LGU, the first time I attended a convention, people were asked about the 23 municipalities in Palawan. They got all the 22. They forgot us. So aside from my colleagues in the tourism office, the provincial tourism office, I hope somebody here or anyone else knows about Culion. But can I just go back to Dr. Jose? Doc, you were presenting a map earlier. I just want to know if you have anything about Culion.
Yes. I was in Culion last year, actually. My first and only visit so far, but I would like to go back. As most of you might know, Culion was rather infamous as a leper colony. So it was off limits for a long, long time. But it has its own history, and the history of Culion during the war itself is very interesting. I wrote an article or a chapter in a book, unfortunately it's not published, on Culion during the war. I can share that with you maybe later on if you give me your contact, because it's a full paper with notes and everything on what happened, how the Japanese did not want to occupy it because they were afraid of leprosy, but they had to bring food because it was not self-sufficient, and the Japanese said, let them go. And so Culion suffered the most number of casualties, I think, because either they died because of starvation, or when they were told to leave the island, they died when they were going to another place. So it's really a tragic place. So I did write something about that, and I can share that with you. Even at the end of the war, while we talked about Puerto Princesa and other parts of Palawan, Culion's own story was different because the first thing they needed was food and medicine, and the medical doctor in charge of the sanitarium actually had to contact the Americans and to fly planes over Culion and drop food parcels. And there are photographs of that plane dropping the food parcels, and you have Dr. Wade standing in the door telling drop them there. So it's a very dramatic story, quite different from
Thank you very much, Doc, for that. Actually, Doc, I want to thank the Raja Travel and Tours for this event. But when I received the invitation, it's really my mission. Why I am here is is to actually reconnect. I mean, we are long leprosy-free island municipality. We are already municipality, and we are an emerging tourism destination in the northern part of Palawan, in the Calamian group of islands. But aside from being a tourism officer, aside from promoting Culion as a tourist destination, because of that first convention I attended in Puerto Princesa, when Culion was forgotten, the only one municipality, aside from promoting to tourists, I wanted to reconnect Culion to Palaweños, to the other Palaweños. Because as early as June 29, 1622, the written history of Culion was already written. We started our history on June 29, 1622. But we were disconnected when we became or declared as leprosarium. So yung history po namin, the history of Culion was forgotten by the other parts of Palawan because we became leprosarium. We were forgotten. And then it's just 1995 where we became a municipality, and 2006 when we became leprosy-free municipality, island. So it's very young that we are reconnecting to you guys who are from other parts of Palawan, and that's really sorry. That's my mission here. And since this is, I was looking at the tourism circuit on the title of the talk, and I was really thinking, but I understand that the current circuit is just here in Puerto Princesa City. But I just hope, ma'am, for the travel and tours and for all the stakeholders, I know we have PTC here and other travel and tours here. I hope that one day, guys, you will include, if there will be an expanded circuit for tourism, for history of Palawan, finally, please include Culion.
We will probably do hubs and spokes. It's because like Calamianes is also far, so we did that one already. And then the writer you were speaking about is Ruta. They also went through us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I just want to share two challenges because we're talking about heritage here, promoting heritage. It's history that this is the package for a tour for history. And Culion is one of the most historic municipality in Palawan. There are two challenges that I want to share. The first challenge is we are really struggling to promote or market the history of Culion because not all tourists are interested on history alone. If they go to Culion, they just go to Culion for 1 to 2 hours, go to the different historical sites, and then nothing else. And not all is interested on that alone. They want adventure, they want beaches, they want other. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is it's the people of Culion that are not proud of our history. So if we guys are actually promoting heritage, if we guys are actually promoting our history, it starts with us, that we must be really proud of our history. If we cannot really promote something that we are not proud of. On the earlier years of Culion, when people from Culion go to Manila, go to Puerto Princesa to study in college, they actually say they are not from Culion. They actually say they are from Coron. Because whenever they say they are from Culion, then the stigma, the impression starts. So, but of course, that's an old story. Right now, like me, I am here. I am proud to say to you, to everyone else here, that I am from Culion. And that is our history, and I am really proud of. And I came from the generation of the lepers. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for reconnecting everyone
Sorry.
again. And then Eileen, I think, has some response.
Just to respond, of course, the first thing that you need to do is really build it within, which is also a challenge right now for Palawan Liberation. But you have to, again, build it from within first. And then, again, you don't really need to, in your face, promote the history. Integrate it. That's a better way of doing things instead of in-your-face promotion of the history. Because you know naman, di ba, mga reverse psychology yung mga tao. The more that you put it on the side, the more that they will bring it to the front. Parang ganon. So try to do that strategy also when you're thinking about marketing a destination.
Okay. So at this point, I'd like to thank our speakers, Dr. Jose, Mr. NT, and of course, Ms. Eileen Clemente for sharing your knowledge, insights, and expertise on how we can actually move forward in tourism circuit development anchored on actually the lost pieces of history in Palawan which have actually been found. But as we have also learned this afternoon, there are still quite a number of lost pieces out there. So not just in Culion, but also in other municipalities. Eileen mentioned Brooks Point, and I'm sure Dr. Jose has a record of all these areas where I think he will also need help and assistance coming from the academe. So those of you there who have some heart, let's say, for research or for some adventure to discover other areas of Palawan through this particular endeavor, then please do get in touch with the Raja Travel Corporation Tourism Knowledge Center, because this is actually a very exciting opportunity. We're now in a post-COVID world or era, and this is, I think, a good time to push the trajectory of what has been started about a decade ago. And everyone here actually is part of that alchemy of the tourism circuit for Palawan. So I think I'd like to end here, and thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Dr. Jose, Mr. Thack, Ms. Clemente, and Dr. Rodolfo for that panel discussion. It has deepened our understanding as we commemorate the Palawan liberation and learn how to curate an effective tourism circuit. And now, to award our certificates of appreciation to our speakers and moderator, may we also invite on stage the supervisor of the Tourism Knowledge Through the lens of historical sites and thoughtfully curated tourism experiences, we can foster a deeper understanding of our shared history and its lasting impact. It is now my pleasure to invite a true advocate of Philippine culture and tourism, reflecting on the importance of the role of thoughtful engagement with our history. And to offer a final perspective on today's event, we are delighted to have Mr. Roberto Alabado III, OIC Regional Director of the Department of Tourism, Region 4B, Mimaropa. He is joining us virtually via Zoom for the closing remarks. Let us give him a round of applause.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. I'm sorry I'm not there because I was already there last week. And I have a lot of things also to do here in Makati, in central office. Anyway, I've been hearing about all of these talks about tourism circuits, about history. And to our people in Maropa, you have a regional director, an OAC regional director who is actually a history buff. Okay, so if you want history, then I think we see Dr. Jose. I think we have to talk a lot about what we can do in reviving nationalism, patriotism in our areas. And I know that it is the tourism is very, very important in telling the story and making people experience on what really happened before. We have been, it dismays me when I hear students or even people who would say that duwag daw ang Pilipino. And throughout history, we have been challenged by so many foreigners, by so many people, and we have shown our valor all over the world. Until now, even in recent history, we have been showing what and who is a Filipino. Okay, for you in World War II, let's talk about a bit of World War II. Did you know that when MacArthur encountered Filipinos in his unit, and at the same time, when he saw the valor of the Filipinos defending yung nararamdaman niyo or maalala niyo yung Battle of Bataan, we served Filipinos who were just newly trained soldiers served as the rear guard action units of the Americans who were going to escape towards Corregidor. So Filipinos were there so that the Americans can escape to Corregidor. And when we say that our Filipino soldiers died on their boots, they really did, because they defended their country and their positions until death. So MacArthur said that give me 10,000 Filipino soldiers and I will conquer the world. So that is who we are. And if we're going to look at our recent history, even our former president Ramos, when he was part of Korean War naman, there was a time when during that time yung communist China, as they were called then, were overrunning the front lines where the Allied forces were defending. So when we were defending a line, sa kaliwa natin, that I think it was the Turkish expedition forces retreated. Etong nasa kaliwa natin, other allied nations, mga soldiers retreated. Sinong naiwan doon? It was the Filipinos na naiwan, that they were being asked to surrender, but the Filipinos refused to even fall back because their orders were to defend that hill, and they never surrendered. Kaya they established the lines again, and the Allied forces went back and helped defend their lines again. So we are constantly reminded by World War II, but here in Palawan, as we see it, we are an integral part of the history of World War II here in the Philippines. The whole of Palawan participated in the liberation of the Philippines. Even today, when divers go to northern Palawan, like Coron, it was there that you would see the Japanese warships that were sank when the American forces were able to penetrate their defenses and locate them doon sa may Coron. Kaya divers, as of now, go there. And a lot of them are looking at the World War II wrecks. So when we go down to Puerto Princesa, ganun din. There are a lot of things that people should, I say should, visit. Just like what Miss Clemente was saying, that hinay-hinay, we have to look at the whole story. We develop the whole story by putting everything that will make a tourist comfortable in listening to history. Yung ating kaibigan po sa Ukulyon, don't worry. You don't need to get all tourists to visit your area. That is a very dangerous proposition or dream of if you do that. If we have culture, then we target those who are interested in culture. If we have people who are going to Sun and Beach, then we target them. However, we can combine both, just like Miss Eileen Clemente was saying. We can integrate history. We can integrate our story of our past wars of World War II into the story to people who are just there for a Sun and Beach or leisure trip. So a lot of things can be actually done. When we develop a circuit, we're going to use government money, resources, investments. At the same time, private investment is also needed so that we can develop the circuit where people can experience the history of Palawan. They can experience the beaches of Palawan, the island hopping of Palawan, the culture of Palawan. Ang ano lang po dyan is, hindi naman we got it all for you. But it is more on focusing. If we have historical history buffs coming in, then we focus on what history can tell us or can tell them. But we also integrate culture and we also integrate beach. If people come in looking for the best beaches in the world, then it's not just the beaches that we will be showing, but we will also be sharing with them our history and our culture. So depende po kung ano yung focus natin. But let us always make them experience who we are and what we have. So congratulations to all of us who have been listening in this very, very interesting discussion on how can we look at history and at the same time, how can we develop historical tours, circuits, and stories. So tour guides, thank you very much. I've been hearing from you, and I hope that we all study more about Palawan history and learn how to tell it in a most interesting way, so that it's not just going to be a storytelling session that they're into, but we're hoping that we can change their perspectives, their hearts, and at the same time on how they view us as Palaweños. So congratulations to Miss Clemente for giving this, for organizing this very, very important event, so that we can show everything that what is here in Palawan, especially what happened here in the past World War IIs. Okay, so we have the World War II, and we have a lot. We have a museum there. We have historical sites. So yes, we will be one with you in developing these sites so that we can form circuits and make the Palawan experience more and more interesting, so that more and more people will come to Palawan because of these places of interest that we will develop. So maraming salamat po sa lahat, and I hope that everyone learned a lot from this session. Maraming salamat po, and sabi nga ng acting Secretary Frasco, mabuhay tayong lahat, and we love the Philippines. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Regional Director. Thank you, Regional Director Alabado. And that brings us to the conclusion of the 7th Travel Talk entitled The Alchemy of Effective Tourism Circuits and Curations, brought to you by the Tourism Knowledge Center by Raja Travel Corporation. Thank you everyone, both here in Palawan and our virtual via Zoom participants, for your presence and participation. Please do not forget to accomplish the post-event feedback form by scanning the QR code flashed on the screen to receive your e-certificates. Once again, we would like to thank our sponsors, Princesa Garden Island Resort and Spa and Heim Chicken. We also would like to acknowledge the support of the Department of Tourism Region 4B Mimaropa, Provincial Government of Palawan, and City Government of Puerto Princesa. Thank you and have a good afternoon.